brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Lynyrd Skynyrd. Lynyrd Skynyrd is an American rock band best known for popularizing the southern rock genre during the 1970s. Originally formed in 1964 as My Backyard in Jacksonville, Florida, the band was also known by names such as the Noble 5 and 1% before finally deciding on Lynyrd Skynyrd in 1969. The band gained worldwide recognition for its live performances and signature songs, Sweet Home Alabama and Free Bird. At the peak of their success, 2 band members and a backup singer died in an airplane crash in 1977, putting an abrupt end to the band's most popular incarnation. The band has sold 28 million records in the United States. The surviving band members reformed in 1987 for a reunion tour with lead vocalist Johnny Van Zant, the younger brother of lead singer and founder Ronnie Van Zant. Lynyrd Skynyrd continues to tour and record with co-founder Gary Rossington, Johnny Van Zant, and guitarist Rickey Medlocke, who first wrote and recorded with the band from 1971 to 1972. Fellow founding member Larry Johnstrom, along with 70s members Ed King and Artemis Pyle, remain active in music, but no longer tour or record with the band. Michael Cartellone has recorded and toured with the band as its core drummer. Since 1999, Lynyrd Skynyrd was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on March 13, 2006. Early years. In the summer of 1964, teenage friends Ronnie Van Zant, Bob Burns, Alan Collins, Gary Rossington, and Larry Johnstrom formed the earliest incarnation of the band in Jacksonville, Florida as My Backyard. The band then changed its name to the Noble 5. The band used different names before using 1% during 1968. In 1969, Van Zant sought a new name. The group settled on Lynyrd Skynyrd, a mocking tribute to physical education teacher Lynyrd Skynyrd at Robert E. Lee High School. Skynyrd was notorious for strictly enforcing the school's policy against boys having long hair. Rossington dropped out of school, tired of being hassled about his hair. The more distinctive spelling, Lynyrd Skynyrd, was being used at least as early as 1970. Despite their high school acrimony, the band developed a friendlier relationship with Skynyrd in later years, and invited him to introduce them at a concert in the Jacksonville Memorial Coliseum. Skynyrd also allowed the band to use a photo of his Lynyrd Skynyrd Realty sign for the inside of their third album. By 1970, Lynyrd Skynyrd had become a top band in Jacksonville, headlining at some local concerts and opening for several national acts. Pat Armstrong, a Jacksonville native and partner in Macon-based Hustlers Inc. with Phil Walden's younger brother, Alan Walden, became the band's managers. Armstrong left Hustlers shortly thereafter to start his own agency. Walden stayed with the band until 1974, when management was turned over to Peter Rudge. The band continued to perform throughout the South in the early 1970s, further developing their hard-driving blues rock sound and image, and experimenting with recording their sound in a studio. Skynyrd crafted this distinctively Southern sound through a creative blend of country, blues, and a slight British rock influence. During this time, the band experienced some lineup changes for the first time. Johnstrom left, and was briefly replaced by Greg T. Walker on bass. At that time, Rickey Medlocke joined as a vocalist and second drummer to help fortify Burns' sound on the drums. Medlocke grew up with the founding members of Lynyrd Skynyrd, and his grandfather Shorty Medlocke was an influence in the writing of The Ballad of Curtis Lowe. Some versions of the band's history state Burns briefly left the band During this time, the band did play some shows with both Burns and Medlocke, using a dual drummer approach. In 1971, they made some recordings at the famous Muscle Shoals Sound Studio with Walker and Medlocke serving as the rhythm section, but without the participation of Burns. Medlocke and Walker left the band to play with another southern rock band, Blackfoot, and when the band made a second round of Muscle Shoals recordings in 1972, Burns was once again featured on drums and Leon Wilkeson on bass. Also in 1972, roadie Billy Powell became the keyboardist for the band. Medlocke later returned to once again play drums for Lynyrd Skynyrd. Medlocke and Walker did not appear on any album until the 1978 release of First and Last, a compilation of recordings made during 1971-1972, originally intended to be their first album. Peak years: 1973-1977. In 1972, the band was discovered by musician, songwriter, and producer Al Kooper of Blood, Sweat and Tears, who had attended one of their shows at Funocchio's in Atlanta. Kooper signed them to his Sounds of the South label that was to be distributed and supported by MCA Records, and produced their first album. Wilkeson temporarily left the band during the early recording sessions for the album, only playing on 2 tracks. He rejoined the band shortly after the album's release at Van Zant's invitation, and is pictured on the album cover. Strawberry Alarm Clock guitarist Ed King joined the band and played bass on the album, along with some guitar work. King stayed in the band and switched solely to guitar after the album's release, allowing the band to replicate its 3-guitar studio mix in live performances. Released on August 13, 1973, the self-titled album with the subtitle, pronounced Lynyrd Skynyrd, sold over 1 million copies, and was awarded a gold disc by the RIAA. The album featured the hit song, Free Bird, which received national airplay, eventually reaching number 19 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Lynyrd Skynyrd's fan base continued to grow rapidly throughout 1973, largely due to their opening slot on The Who's Quadrophenia tour in the United States. Their 1974 follow-up, Second Helping, featuring King, Collins and Rossington all collaborating with Van Zant on the songwriting, cemented the band's breakthrough. Its single, Sweet Home Alabama, a response to Neil Young's Southern Man, reached on the charts that August. During their peak years, each of their records sold over 1 million copies, but Sweet Home Alabama was the only single to crack the top 10. The Second Helping album reached number 12 in 1974, eventually going multi-platinum. In July of that year, Lynyrd Skynyrd was one of the headline acts at the Ozark Music Festival held at the Missouri State Fairgrounds in Sedalia, Missouri. In January 1975, drummer Burns left the band and was replaced by Kentucky native Artemis Pyle. The band's third album, Nothing Fancy, was recorded in 17 days. Kooper and the band parted by mutual agreement before its release, with Kooper left with the tapes to complete the mix. It had lower sales than its predecessor. Midway through its tour, Ed King left the band, citing tour exhaustion. In January 1976, backup singers Leslie Hawkins, Cassie Gaines, and JoJo Billingsley were added, although they were not considered official members. Lynyrd Skynyrd's fourth album, Gimme Back My Bullets, was released, but did not achieve the same success as the previous 2 albums. Van Zant and Collins both felt that the band was seriously missing the 3-guitar attack that had been one of its early hallmarks. although Skynyrd auditioned several guitarists, including such high-profile names as Leslie West. Its search continued until Cassie Gaines began touting the guitar and songwriting prowess of her younger brother, Steve, the Junior Gaines, who led his own band. Crawdad was invited to audition on stage with Skynyrd at a concert in Kansas City on May 11, 1976. Liking what they heard, the group also jammed informally with the Oklahoma native several times, then invited him into the group in June. With Gaines on board, the newly reconstituted band recorded the double live album One More from the Road at the Fox Theater in Atlanta, and performed at the Nebworth Festival, which also featured the Rolling Stones. Both Collins and Rossington had serious car accidents over Labor Day weekend in 1976, which slowed the recording of the follow-up album and forced the band to cancel some concert dates. Rossington's accident inspired the ominous "That Smell," a cautionary tale about drug abuse that was clearly aimed towards him and at least one other band member. Rossington has admitted repeatedly that he was the Prince Charming of the song who crashed his car into an oak tree while drunk and stoned on Quaaludes. Van Zant, at least, was making a serious attempt to clean up his act and curtail the cycle of boozed-up brawling that was part of Skynyrd's reputation. 1977's Street Survivors turned out to be a showcase for guitarist, vocalist Steve Gaines, who had joined the band just a year earlier and was making his studio debut with them. Publicly and privately, Ronnie Van Zant marveled at the multiple talents of Skynyrd's newest member, claiming that the band would all be in his shadow one day. Gaines' contributions included his co-lead vocal with Van Zant on the co-written "You Got It Right" and the rousing guitar boogie, "I Know a Little," which he had written before he joined Skynyrd. So confident was Skynyrd's leader of Gaines' abilities that the album featured Gaines delivering his self-penned bluesy, and No Good Life, the only song in the pre-Crash Skynyrd catalog to feature a lead vocalist other than Ronnie Van Zant. The album also included the hit singles, What's Your Name and That Smell. The band was poised for their biggest tour yet, with shows always highlighted by the iconic rock anthem, Free Bird. In November, the band was scheduled to fulfill Van Zant's lifelong dream of headlining New York's Madison Square Garden. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.